Welcome! Today we are going deep into a really powerful philosophical system. One that starts with a question that might just change how you see, well, everything.
So let me ask you directly, do you see the world as it truly is, or are you seeing it through a filter you don't even know exists? The framework we're exploring today suggests that for most of us, we're unknowingly living in a world that's been almost entirely built by our own minds.
So, to really wrap our heads around this, we've got to start with a powerful metaphor, the invisible glasses that, believe it or not, we're all wearing right this second.
The central idea here is that we never actually perceive reality directly. Nope. Instead, every single thing we experience, every sight, every sound, every thought, gets filtered through what are called translation glasses. These glasses are made up of our own unique beliefs, our habits, all those automatic reflexes that translate and, frankly, distort the world before we even have a chance to think about it.
And get this, it goes so much deeper than just our feelings or opinions. This quote really hits it home. Even our logic, the very thing we trust to be objective, is shaped by these glasses. What you think is reasonable or common sense is often just a defense of your pre-programmed preferences. It's wild when you think about it.
Okay, so if we're all living inside this sort of perceptual prison, how in the world did the walls get built in the first place? Well, psychology actually gives us a pretty fascinating blueprint for how it all goes down, brick by conditioned brick.
Now, you've probably heard of these classic experiments, right? Pavlov's dog salivating at the sound of a bell, or poor little Albert being taught to fear a fuzzy white rat. These aren't just quirky stories from a textbook. They show us the fundamental way our brains get programmed. Through this kind of conditioning, our minds create these automatic, unconscious programs, what our source material calls recorded commands, that just run in the background, totally without our permission.
So, that's how it happens on an individual level. But how did these little recorded commands blow up to become huge social rules that entire groups of people follow, a lot of the time without even knowing why? Well, a powerful and, let's be honest, kind of chilling experiment with 5 monkeys has the answer.
So picture this. The experiment starts simply. Some monkeys try to grab a banana, and they get blasted with ice-cold water. It doesn't take long for them to learn, don't touch that ladder. But here's where it gets really interesting. They bring in a new monkey. The second it goes for the banana, the other monkeys who know what's coming freak out and pull it back down, sometimes violently. Then, one by one, they replace the original monkeys. Pretty soon, you've got a cage full of monkeys who have never, ever been sprayed with water. And yet, what do? They brutally enforce the rule. If any new monkey tries to climb that ladder, they get beaten down. Why? They have no idea. It's just, that's how things are done here. It's an incredible look at how social norms, our own collective recorded commands, get passed down, long after the original reason for them is completely gone.
So, if our view of the world is shaped by these powerful, invisible filters and these long-forgotten rules, it begs a pretty mind-blowing question. What else is out there that we're not seeing at all? This leads us to the idea that reality itself might just be way, way bigger than our 5 senses can handle. And this is where we really shift gears, from looking at the problem to exploring the incredible possibilities. If everything we perceive is just a translation, what about the original language? What might the true nature of reality actually be, beyond what our limited tools can even begin to grasp?
Let's break down how this process supposedly works. First, you have raw information coming in through your 5 senses. But here's the thing, our senses can only pick up a microscopic sliver of what's actually out there. Just look at the electromagnetic spectrum. Then, that tiny slice of data gets run through our mental and emotional filters, all those recorded commands. And only then, after all that processing and editing, does the final version of reality reach our core consciousness, our self. What we experience isn't the raw data, it's the finished product.
To really get a handle on a limitation this big, let's play with a classic thought experiment. It's called Flatland. Just imagine, for a second, a universe that exists only on a flat, 2-dimensional plane, like a piece of paper.
Now, the beings who live there are shapes, circles, squares, triangles. They can move left and right, forward and back, but that's it. For them, the very idea of up is literally impossible to think of. It's not in their vocabulary, it's not in their experience, it just doesn't exist. So, what would happen if a 3-dimensional object from our world, like a sphere, passed through their 2D world? Well, from their point of view, it would look like magic. A tiny point would just appear out of thin air, grow into a big circle, then shrink back down to a point and vanish into nothing. They would have absolutely no way to explain it.
To those flatlanders, a 3D being would seem like a god, capable of miracles. And here's the kicker. This whole analogy is designed to make us wonder, could we be the flatlanders? Could our entire three-dimensional reality just be one slice of a much higher dimensional universe that we are completely blind to?
Okay, so we've laid out the problem. We live in a kind of perceptual prison built by our own minds. The big question is there a way out? According to this philosophy, the answer is a resounding yes, and the escape route is the path of self-awareness.
The very first step on this path is to get brutally honest about the state of our own mind. For most of us, if we're really honest, we're operating with an unruly mind. It's constantly distracted. It jumps from thought to anxiety to memory. It can't stay put. The goal is to train it, to cultivate a directed mind, a mind that can actually stay focused on one thing intentionally.
And the core skill you need to develop for this is called prosylosy, which basically means attentiveness. The best way to think about it is like a muscle for your mind. It's the simple, fundamental ability to hold your attention steady. This isn't about what you focus on. It's about strengthening the ability to focus itself. This skill becomes the flashlight that you can then use to finally see and examine your own translation glasses.
So, what's the end game? What's the ultimate goal of all this practice? It's to achieve what some philosophers call tabula rasa, a blank slate. It's about reaching a state of pure, simple awareness where you can finally perceive reality directly, without all the distorting noise from your recorded commands and conditioned reflexes.
But you know, in the end, this whole path isn't some abstract theory you just talk about. It's a practice. It's something you have to do. The message here is so clear. Don't talk about flying, fly. Real freedom isn't found by endlessly analyzing the bars of your cage, but by finding the courage to actually try your wings. So, I'll just leave you with this final thought. If it's true, if the walls of the prison really are built from our own thoughts, our own unexamined beliefs, and the social rules we just blindly follow, then who else could possibly hold the key to our freedom?